What is up YouTube, it's Kingfisher745, and I hope you're all ready for another blast from the past. In this segment we talked about another very powerful team up, but unfortunately I was sick, and it is definitely noticeable. Before we get into the introduction for this team, once again you can check out all new podcasts at thehelicarrier.com or at Blog Talk. Both of those links are on the screen right now. But anyways, in this episode we're using Team Ground and Pound, although with a slightly newer setup that makes them even more vicious. Now Moonstone provides some very important benefits, but the MVP hands down is going to be Captain Britain. As long as you get those Paragon Exploiter debuffs on the enemy, which should be pretty easy to do with the Enchanted Crowbar and the Neuro Purge. Well then after that, Captain Britain's going to get 2 attacks. The second usually being a life-ending Britannic, where Moonstone comes in handy besides her own offensive firepower and her special E-ISO, is with her level 6 Gravity Syndrome, she'll grant Gravity Well to all allies. This increases the damage of melee attacks. She's also going to exhaust the enemies and ground them, so flying characters are no longer immune to ground attacks. Then, since the addition of the pressurized A-ISO, we can now place that on our level 1, so now the equipped unarmed action applies pressure points. This will most certainly help out Captain Britain. Because of their efficiency in working together, this is quite a powerful team that can take down the enemies in a hurry. Also, with the Neuro Purge applying off balance, you'll be pretty safe from counter and preemptive attacks. Then between Moonstone's level 6 and the weather control device, the enemy should be exhausted for most of the battle. This will allow Captain Britain plenty of time to one-shot each of the opponents. Or if the fight goes long enough, you can even unleash a Big Bang attack. All you have to do is get that level 6 out of the way and then go phased, and you'll be able to charge up your Big Bang in no time. So there it is, a brief intro of the Team Ground and Pound. Now let's go ahead and listen to the original audio.
What is going on, everybody? It's Kingfisher745, and I do apologize, I am sick this week. But even with that, I do want to welcome everyone to the All Hail the King segment, only on the From the Helicarrier podcast. For this week, I'm going to bring you a team up that I briefly mentioned on one of my videos. It actually comes from the Moonstone review, and I mentioned a team called Ground and Pound. Hopefully you're familiar with this term, but basically it's kind of used in MMA, not to be confused with MAA. So that's mixed martial arts, and we're going to be using it for Marvel Avengers Alliance. The whole concept is getting your enemies down, and then pounding them relentlessly. The ground part of this team comes from Moonstone, and that's specifically her level 6. This ability is called Gravity Syndrome. It's subtle. It causes all enemies to be exhausted. It gives Gravity Well, so it increases the damage of melee attacks. And then it also causes Heavy. So this is where the ground part comes in. All flying characters are no longer immune to ground attacks, and they cannot dodge most attacks. So you've effectively grounded all of your opponents. Once all flights have been grounded, you can bring in your teammate, Captain Britain. His level 6 move is a ground attack, which stuns or has a good chance to stun all enemies. When Captain Britain first came out, this move was absolutely brutal. The only thing that could get around it was if your enemy team had flyers. That's no longer the case, not with Moonstone, since she does ground all flying opponents. So that's why I call this team Team Ground and Pound. Now as far as Empowered ISO weight, you're going to want to use Quick Empowered ISO weight on Moonstone. That's first and foremost. It'll make her level 6 a quick action ability. After that, it's a much tougher call, but you could go with the Protective Empowered ISO weight, and that gives her Savant, so she starts combat with a shield that absorbs damage. For Captain Britain, you could use Close Empowered ISO weight, and that gives them Street Fighting, so melee attacks have a higher chance to crit. Then another interesting Empowered ISO weight that you could use on Captain Britain is Viscous Empowered ISO 8. It grants heavy blows, so applies slow to enemies who attack with melee. But that's just an interesting possibility that may help you proc Curse of the Otherworld sooner. You truthfully may be better off using something like Relentless, which would make him immune to stun, Skull Thumper, which gives his attacks a chance to stun, or maybe even the Hardened Empowered ISO 8, which would give him Defensive Fighter, melee attacks, increased defense. There's a lot of options out there, and I will definitely toy around with this when I do the video episode of this All Hail the King segment. Alright, so that's going to be it for this week's tip. Make sure you tune into my channel for the video, which hopefully will be up tomorrow. And I'm also hoping that I do feel better and my voice comes completely back. Thank you for tuning in and listening, and I'm going to send it back to the hosts.